Welcome in, my friends. Cannabiz Conversation Season 4, powered by our friends at Green Lane Communication. If you don't know Mikey and his team, you need to go find out who they are. You want to understand how it is to be standing out in a very crowded field. You want someone who specializes in cannabis. You want someone who lives the work. He doesn't just talk about it, he lives the work. Head over to greenlanecommunication.com. Learn how to get involved with the best PR firm running in cannabis. Today's guest is a fun one, folks. If you don't know him, by the time we're done today, you will. And I think you'll be glad you do, because this is someone who runs, it's a multi-state operation. It's from the ground up. And here's the thing, though. I use the word multi-state because I think people think MSO and they think corporate and they think, ugh. Well, it actually just means somebody owns a business in multiple states. It doesn't have to mean dredge and bullshit. And today's guest is really, I think, the shining example of doing it right. Brendan McKee, COO of Silver Therapeutics. How are you today, man?
I'm good, Sean. Thank you so much for having me. And just really, really grateful to be here.
Well, we're grateful to have you. I look forward to hearing your story, and that's how we kick it off. We like to know where it all began, Brendan. So where did you find this wonderful plant? Tell us the story, please.
Oh, man. Well, gosh, it goes back. I'm 41, and I think my first smoke session was when I was 12 years old. So well beyond half my life at this point. I've had a beautiful relationship with the plant, and even better, I was with like my childhood best friends who are still my best friends. So that was my introduction to it, and of course, continue to utilize it, essentially for the rest of my life. And, obviously there's some phases where you don't do it as much, and some phases where you do it more, but it's just always been there for me. And it's just such a wonderful, thing that it's here to stay. And it's just being handled so professionally, and of course medically, and we ultimately, we formed this business wanting to help people and really to be a wellness driven company. And so I've always stuck by, treat everybody like a patient, like they're utilizing the plant, whether it's for sleep or whatever, reduce anxiety or mitigate pain. Yeah, man, it's a beautiful thing. So yeah, for almost 30 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say you got you're like me, coming up on the 30-year mark. You, and it's funny enough, another East Coast operator, Samantha Seagard, are the two 12-year-old clubbers here. The average age is 14 on the show. I think we've got like 5 or 6 people who are in the 14 club. The 12 club, though, is the earliest that I do believe we have on record. So look, to me, I don't think it matters. I think what matters is how you form that relationship. I think people think, 12 years old, 14-year-old kids getting involved in drugs. Like, I mean, it's not that rare, folks. I don't know what to tell you. So it's more common than you give it credit for. And it doesn't mean that we're all going to turn into shitless layabouts who do nothing with our lives, by the way. All right, let's talk about a couple of things. Did you say you run your business with your childhood best friends?
No, so I smoked my first, your classic shitty weed, out of a homemade bowl.
Okay, homemade out of what though, Brendan? We got to specify here.
Oh, it was literally, I think it was an apple. I think we drilled into an apple. We put a little tin foil in there, poked some holes, and there we went. But no, fortunately, my childhood best friends they're still my best friends. They have different careers, but I do have many best friends who invested in the company, which is really wonderful. And I'm always so grateful that they got involved, both from an investment standpoint, but also just from an advisory standpoint. One of them's an attorney, the other one's a CFO at a major private lending firm. I mean, just being able to like tap on those people who are my best friends to help me with this particular business has been like, it's just like, it's priceless. So and all of them consume, right? Like it's,
Yeah.
we can, I visit them and I bring them all sorts of goodies and we have ourselves a night. So
That's
it's,
good, man. I like
yeah,
that,
it's
childhood
great.
best friends. I asked because I actually run my company with my childhood best friend. Here we
That's
are,
awesome.
44 years old we are. And so, yeah, it's always fun to be able to do that together and see that sort of growth in people around you and watch that. And to have a CFO, to have an attorney in your corner, right? I mean, it's a network thing. It's who you know, right? That's how we're able to get places and people investing in businesses. I think there's always a risk when you invest with friends or family, right? No doubt. And I've learned the hard way, but I've also seen the good way. And I think it's always a great way to grow business is within family equity, especially if you're confident and you're going to continue to grow something and it actually becomes meaningful, right? I've definitely had a cousin or two come by with an idea that was a bad idea that I definitely did not want my family to invest in. So here you are, you run a multi-state operation. Where do you begin to see a business aspect from cannabis, Brendan? As far as, we started consuming at 12. Obviously, we're not running a business at 13. Talk to me about that delta between the beginning of where you started the company and how you got to that point.
Yeah, I mean, I always knew people and I was able to get my hands on things. So in college, I was someone that was able to get weed for people. So I guess you could call me a bit of a drug dealer.
Well, no. We'll call you a legacy distributor, my friend. That's
Yeah.
what I am. That's what I call
Yep.
myself. Everyone loves this legacy word, so we'll go ahead and
Yep.
throw it around. I was dealing in dime bags and eighths and quarters and whatever, breaking up pounds from California. So yeah, no, it's okay, bro. We're good there.
Yeah.
It's a legacy distributor, and you were doing it, and I'm happy. And that was in college. Is that when you began, or was it a little earlier?
A little bit in high school, a little bit in college, and then I had somewhat of a unique path. I graduated college and went over to Europe and played professional American football there, in the European League of Football, and I was drug tested. So that was like my longest stint, probably, up until the age of 12, right?
Yeah, that's I joke about my 30-day stint before a drug test was someone's like, when's the last time you did that? I'm like, the 30 days before I found weed. Like, it's just not something that I would never do. And I failed that drug test anyways, Brendan. That's the worst part of the whole story is I went like 50, almost 60 days sober and still failed. So fucking what a waste of time that was. And I ended up passing because I had a medical card. So this whole time I didn't even have to give a shit about the test. I could have just slapped the card down. And anyways, go ahead. So, all right. So you're playing the European Football League. Very cool, man.
Yeah. It was a good time. And so I couldn't smoke then. And then I came back and I had an opportunity to go back and play, but I was like, you know what? I got student loans. I got all this stuff I got to pay for. So then I ended up having to stop again because I got drug tested for a role at a financial institution. And then, so I kind of went the finance route and met wonderful people, but figured it out pretty early. Like the lifestyle wasn't for me. I was covering the Far East markets. So it was like early day, going in early, going home late, definitely not fulfilled, definitely not all that happy. So that's when I spun out and I just went on my own and did a handful of things. And then in 2016-ish, everything really started to kind of pop off in Massachusetts, and there was a clear path to a medical license and then inevitably an adult use license. And so, yeah, really since 2016, I've this has kind of been everything to me.
2016, that is early on in that scene. And it was a bit, but I like how you document the fact that there was a clear path. Regardless of whatever the noise is in the world, at least you said to yourself, look, if we do A, B, C, and D, we will get ourselves there, right? And I think I don't think necessarily all states are that way, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it is necessarily a clear path. I think there's a lot of zigzagging, and I think a lot of frustration gets created that way. But you obviously were able to say, hey, we can do this. 2016. So when does is Massachusetts, is that where it all begins for you then? Or are you working in states before that?
Yeah. So Massachusetts was the first state we opened in, followed by Maine, then Vermont, and then finally New York. So essentially, like, as those adult use markets opened, we were typically among, some of the first groups getting in there, which was great. And we all have roots in those states, so it was very much like a natural progression for us. And ultimately, it was funny. Maine and Mass actually legalized the same year. But Maine, for a multitude of reasons, like they just couldn't get it together. So they were like maybe 2 years behind us. I think they went.
It's
I
so
think they went
weird,
legal,
dude.
and yeah,
It's just
very
so weird.
weird.
Governments are so odd. Like we're dealing with it in Minnesota. It's like they've had legal weed now for 7 months, yet nothing has happened.
Yeah.
No actual groundwork. Permits. There was a permit issue. These other things. I mean, it's like, are all these states trying to reinvent the wheel, Brendan? Are they not just able to say, hey, look, so-and-so has the best model, and I don't know what that so-and-so is from your perspective, but isn't there a so-and-so model that they can all just follow?
You'd think, right? Like there's been markets like you've talked about that have been around long enough, like a California, like a Colorado, where you could kind of cherry pick and say, hey, this seemed to work well for them, this didn't. And yeah, you'd like to think that they would compile what works or what they think will work best, relative to what they're trying to achieve and where they are. But there's always ego at play, right? Like, politicians, lobbyists, like they always have to think and pretend like they know what's best.
Yeah, no, and
So
that's the thing. You're right. As soon as the words came out of my mouth, I have a bad habit. My wife and business partner always criticize me. I'm an oversimplifier. When I have an idea, I'm just like, look, bro, it's not that hard. Just do it. And I'll have some programmer say, do you have an idea what that's going to take? I'm like, no, it's easier than you're making it. Just go do it. It's A and B, and it's easy. And I have no idea, right? I just know in my mind it's way simpler. So are you the patient one of the group, Brendan, when it comes to the red tape of government? Because you made a mention about knowing that your job wasn't for you. And I did the same thing. I took a corporate job, and within 3 months after they moved me from the beautiful state of Colorado back to the Midwest here of Wisconsin, that I just hated it. And I was not cut out for it. And I just convinced my wife to move back to the Midwest. We grew up in Chicago. And it was all these things where I was like, dude, what have I done? And so I hate corporation red tape. I hate bureaucracy. Tell me, are you the patient one of the group who likes dealing with all that?
I've definitely become more patient. The other thing that, has made me more patient, I have a 2.5-year-old. So like, I mean, between my little girl and the last, 8+ years of regulatory hurdles, I'm everything pretty much rolls off me these days. Like it really takes a lot to get my engine to rev up. So it's I'm pretty patient, and both my partners are patient. They're wonderful guys. Josh Silver and Josh Ferranto, we all came together through friends and family, and really launched this together. And we're all pretty tempered, even keel. Like we work well together. It's just, yes, there are days that are challenging, and you want to kick and scream sometimes, but ultimately it never helps. So you just got to grin and bear it. And it's interesting. I find myself, I'm kind of like the therapist of the organization. So when there's when there's a colleague of mine that's like really frustrated, or I just say, hey, listen, like this is what you signed up for. There's just certain things we can't control, and you just got to ride the wave. And I think they appreciate it, because they probably think a guy like myself gets all revved up, and believe me, there's times that I want to, but it doesn't help anybody. And I try to be pretty zen about everything, because there's just every day something different pops up, and you have to have a, like I said, like just be really tempered and take it on. But it's a grind,
I think
though.
that's part of the founder role, man. I really do. I put myself in that position. I'm also the company therapist as well. You try to just take people through it. You try to help them understand, like, this is what we're doing. We know what we're trying to accomplish here. We knew this wasn't going to be easy, and I mean, when I started my company, I thought I wanted to make it recession proof, because I grew up in the car business. I've been through multiple recessions, multiple backslides. And I thought, how do I do that in a way? So cut expense, cut this, cut that, make sure we're efficient, blah, blah, blah. Then COVID hits, and not only does our company survive, but it grows. And so I think to myself, shit, I didn't plan on doing that. Like, that's pretty cool. Talk to me about how does the growth begin? When is the aha moment for you, Brendan, where you're like, wait a second, we did this, we can do this again, and then we can do it again. Like, what did that, or was that always the plan, I guess, would be my follow-up to that.
Yeah, it just happened. It did happen like organically and sequentially, right? It was, Josh and myself got together. Josh Silver lives in Saratoga Springs, New York. I live in Massachusetts, and Josh Ferranto lives in Maine, right? So it was like, we already had these footprints. We had these roots in these areas that we could utilize and leverage. And so as these markets legalize, we kind of did a rinse and repeat. So we identified what locations we liked, worked with those municipalities to, get whatever local approvals were required, ultimately, applied through the state agencies. And yeah, to date, we've opened, about a dozen facilities across 4 states where we also have multiple licenses in Minnesota, and a couple locations locked in. So we're super excited. Minnesota will be our 5th state. And every, I say this all the time, but every store that we open, we get like a little bit better, a little bit tighter. Yeah. And we've brought on some incredible people. We have a VP of growth, a VP of ops, a CFO. Like, we've built a really awesome team to be able to grow and to be able to expand in an ideal way, so as efficient as possible, cost effective, and really really making sure the systems by which we identify locations allows us to optimize what we pick. Because as I'm sure you've seen and experienced, right, like the early movers, they can exist, retail can exist in an industrial park with like no visibility because they're the only ones around. But the minute saturation occurs, and all of a sudden, you're starting to see dispensaries next to like a McDonald's or a Dunkin' or a Starbucks, or in these, what you consider to be more typical, more ideal retail plazas, like that's going to win out, that's going to beat out it's just a tough
agree.
scenario.
I mean, I was in Colorado, and, I grew up in the Colorado market, if you will. So my wife and I were medical growers back there in 2005, 2006. And it's one of those things that when I looked at it then, you talk about the retail space. I just went back there for the first time since I moved 15 years ago, and it looks completely different. And anyways, a buddy outside of Denver turns me on to a place, and it's in this beautiful area of Golden, Colorado, in a strip mall with a Home Depot and all this other shit. And I thought to myself, this cannot hurt being here. Like, this cannot hurt. And then I got another recommendation when I was on the other side of town on another day. Cause being out of towners, we can only buy like so much a day. Dumbest fucking rule in the world. But anyways, we got to all deal with what we got to deal with for legality. It's fine. But so the next day I go out, man, and this thing is buried. I knew the area. I didn't even know where it was. It buried off a side road, an industrial park by itself. Great weed, great people. But I started to think on the plane ride home, the same thing you did, which was, that dude's got to win more battles than he loses being next to the Home Depot. So, yeah, I think that's really cool to see. You'll have to turn me on to where you are in Minnesota, man, living in a prohibition state of Wisconsin. We're always going north, whether it be the UP of Michigan or Minnesota, to find what's good for us. So you let us know as soon as you get open or when you're going to be opening up there. We'll head up there for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're locked in at the town of Stillwater, which borders Wisconsin.
And I know where it is.
We have a few more. Yeah.
I'm looking at real estate right now, bud. Right now in that very area for this very express written consent purpose. Okay, like I've had it with prohibition. I've been here too long. My company's grown. I don't have to live here anymore. So I should definitely look to move. But Stillwater, love the area, dude. Definitely will be up there. You start dealing with Superior, Wisconsin. There's a lot of tourism that happens in northern Wisconsin. Make that obvious to people, man, and then home run for all the good things there for sure.
Love it. Yeah, it's a great town. they've been very receptive, and yeah, they're only issuing one license, and they've issued it to us. So we're just we're really grateful to be there. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, great. I mean, just so beautiful. You start dealing with the St. Croix and Mississippi, everything up there, all that water. I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous, man. I am stoked for you to be in Minnesota. So is that how you're going to view, like, if Wisconsin comes online, if whatever comes online, is that how you view it? Where you're like, look, if I can get my location, get my city, get my permit, I'll choose you type thing? Is that how you're looking at it?
Yeah, I think, ideally, right? Like when you open a store, I think some of the rules that companies like ours live by is like, okay, ideally you're opening a location in a town with like a limited license cap, with a certain population, with a certain median income, right? There's like a whole checklist, like all this criteria that we try to operate by. And Stillwater was like a perfect example, like, to be the only one in a town with the population it has and the contiguous municipalities and the proximity to Wisconsin, like that was a dream. And fortunately we got it. So yeah, we're just like, you got to say a lot more no's than yeses when you're in this business.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. As someone who does lending for folks in your world and helps friends and people get dispensaries open, I call myself a last mile funder. People are like, they need their last 50, 100 grand. They kind of call me for the last 7, 8 years. And yeah, dude, I should have said no a lot more times than I said yes. And the wife, the CFO of the family, does not let me forget those should have been no's when they were yeses. So I'm hip to that, dude. Let me ask you a follow up though on the Stillwater, Wisconsin thing, because I really want to look at this. I'm a business kid. I'm an entrepreneur. I love the business aspect. When you look at a Stillwater location and you think to yourself, yeah, I'm going to draw Wisconsin. Are you looking at that long term as to say, yeah, but I can't rely on that because if Wisconsin goes legal, that changes? I've always wondered how you guys approach a new state who borders a prohibition state and what you look at sort of as a long-term financial outlook for that.
Yeah, I mean, we've had several border stores already in our portfolio, and inevitably that revenue drops as competition turns on, and as those once illegal or not legal states turn on, right? So Williamstown, Massachusetts is a perfect example. We were the first to open in that town, and still the only in that town. But we have some competition to the east of us now. But where Williamstown is, it literally borders Vermont and New York. So we were getting like tremendous traffic.
Yeah.
I mean, we were getting people in from like Ohio. I mean, it was like, it was crazy. So we were seeing like just insane numbers. And inevitably over time, like we're probably doing like 1/3 to 1/2 of what we did in its peak. But it's not necessarily because of it's not just because volume has dropped. Obviously, like price compression has occurred in mass, right? So like I was just at the Williamstown store the other day. If I bought what I bought, back in 2019 or 2020, it would have cost me probably 3 times as much. So it's like, it's a double whammy of a little bit less volume and in actuality, a bigger issue with price compression. So like, the average ounce of flower in Massachusetts 4 years ago, I think was like almost $400, right? At retail.
Yeah.
Now I think the average ounce is like $97. It's
and
like,
so, but Brendan, this is pretty typical though, right? For new markets that come on, because again, you open these new markets, but no one can grow any weed or anything before these markets open. So when they open, everyone's still got to grow weed, right? Because they can't bring it in from somewhere else. And so you have to grow your weed and then you can sell your weed. So yeah, obviously the first couple runs, it's new. There's going to be bigger deals. The compression happens. How do you account for this you said out loud just now, you're doing let's just call it a third less business, right? In that location. Location's still open, still making money. Brendan's still paying employees. How did Brendan account for that? And I want to get into your secret sauce. You got something crazy you do, you don't want to share. I get it. But how does one account for a third drop in revenue to keep one's business continued forward?
Yeah, there's a few things, right? I think when you build your forecast, when you build your models and your budget, right? Like you stress test it. You look at it and say, okay, let's assume that this store is going to do 250 customers a day, 80 bucks a transaction. And obviously there's like a ramp up to that. Depending on how new the market is, the ramp up will be either incredibly fast or take more time. Our Boston location in the neighborhood of Rosendale is another good example. We unfortunately had some issues with the architect and some approvals, and long story short, we eventually got open, but now we're serving like hundreds and hundreds of people a day. But it took like a full year to ramp us up to get to the numbers that we wanted, because we got a late start. Like we were supposed to be the first one open in that area, but we had some delays, so other folks were able to get open before us. And but we've been able to become the number one dispensary in that area because of our loyalty program, our customer service, our the breadth of product offerings. Like it's all like there's a lot of different things that go into being a successful like retailer. And fortunately, like I said, we just have such a great team to execute on all those things. But it's very different state to state, where the maturity is at of the market. Again, what if any, what kind of license caps exist? There's so many factors that I think ultimately determine the success of a retail. It's like, and you got to be aware of them, and you have to be, I've been practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for like 12 years now, and my partners and colleagues are probably sick of hearing me say this, but I always kind of say, hey, we have to like Jiu-Jitsu this situation. We have to think like 4 or 5 moves ahead, and actually like be mindful of anticipating whatever hurdles, competition, whatever it might be, changes in regulatory infrastructure. You just have to be ready for everything and anticipate everything. And I'm not saying you need to be paranoid, but you kind of need to be paranoid.
Look, it's preparation. My team says that I unlock the matrix. So I look at things the same way. I try to look at worst case, not today, not tomorrow, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. What does this look like? How do we get here? How do we keep what we have? Competition is competition. I created a niche business. People still try and copy it. They go out of business, but it's because you can't really do what we've done now. Like you said, expense-wise, to start the company we started, you got to have way more capital now than you had to have 12 years ago, right? To get the basic infrastructure. So I really love that. So look, Matt, you've been great with your time. I'm going to bring us into the hot hits because you just said regulatory changes. And my number one hot hit for you is a regulatory change. So let's get into those. Don't forget, hot hits brought to you by Green Lane Communication. Nobody can have you stand out, be heard, and remembered better in cannabis than Green Lane Communication. If you don't know Mike and his team, head over to greenlanecommunication.com. Get started with the best in the cannabis space. All right, hot hit number one. What is going on in Massachusetts looking to repeal adult use? Brendan, what say you?
It's so funny, man. I've had so many texts come my way about the situation. I truly have not read into it because I think it's such bullshit. I don't know. I mean, the horses have left the barn. Like they're under no circumstances will this state pass up on the tens of millions of dollars it receives in tax revenue. Like that, whatever this person is trying to achieve, there's probably another agenda somewhere in that. So I wish I knew more. So sorry that I don't. But it's complete and utter bullshit.
I don't need you to know more. Look, dude, if I hear something on TikTok, I immediately think it's bullshit and false anyways. So I don't really care. Now, I did get a backup news article and I got some other people talking about it. I read into it. I think it's nonsense for the same exact reason. I think it is a part of political positioning. I don't quite get what that is, except for it could potentially be tied to the religious right. I'm not here to talk about this on this show, Brendan. I don't want to waste your time with that. But it's the only way I can logically make sense of all the decisions being made in DC around this topic right now seem to be trying to keep one side happy and another side satisfied. So, all right. So we think it's total bullshit. Great. I agree. And I'm going to stop texting my friends in the East about it now too. So thank you. You just saved them a text, bro. That's great. All right. So you're a dispensary. I'm a consumer of dispensaries. I have a problem I'm running into recently, and it's happened in multiple states. So I'm gonna ask you if I'm crazy or if I should expect it. I'm getting beans in my weed from retail and medical locations. Is this okay, Brendan?
Definitely not okay. Yeah, okay. No, that's
okay.
There should be. I mean, we take quality control so seriously. It's because, like, at the end of the day, like, customers are the people we serve are entrusting us, right?
Yeah.
Like so we do a lot of what I like to call repackaging, so that we can actually do an additional layer of quality control. And dude, we've sent back weed a ton of times. We're like, this does not meet our standards. You got to take it back. I don't care what you do with it, but we're not selling it. And it's, I think, that's a big reason why I think we've built the customer base we have. It's just, we care about what people are putting into their bodies. And like I said, having that extra layer of quality control for our customers is huge for us. So yeah, absolutely. Under no circumstances is that acceptable.
All right, look, I get called a very over particular person, right? That's how my wife nicely calls me an asshole. And so I look at it, I'm like, look, that's broken. This isn't right. I shouldn't have to pay for this. Now, obviously, I'm already home. This thing's cracked. I'm miles away from where I began, so I can't really complain. But I wanted to make sure I wasn't going crazy. So thank you for setting me at ease. Let's wrap up the show with this, because I am really interested to know, what's the future for Silver Therapeutics, man? If you're jiu-jitsuing this moment, what is the steps ahead for you?
At the end of the day, we are working towards employee ownership. So we love the idea of our employees becoming owners through what's called an ESOP.
Oh yeah, I mean, I had the ESOP king of cannabis architecture on the show, Mr. Gleeman. I mean, geez, my God, my head is still spinning from whatever the fuck he told me about how I need to sell my company to my employees. I'm like, wait, no taxes? Hold on, let's go talk about this. So yeah, for sure, I love that ESOP. Look, I think it makes sense. I told Gleeman I do the broke version. So I basically give everyone who works here equity. In only in air quotes only, is every quarter when whatever the quarterly equity of the company is, whatever money we made, we split up amongst our department heads. And everyone gets a portion of that profit. It doesn't just go to me or my founder. It goes to everybody. It's shared equally based on your percentage and tenure with the company. But again, you don't own shit. You're just paid a percentage of one's volume. So Gleeman told me I need to get my act together, though, and really sell my company to my employees. I want to hear more about that journey. So the employee ownership program, you're looking down that road. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, we're very excited about it. It's still a work in progress. If you gotta, not to get too into the weeds, I'm sure Darren did, but you gotta find a trustee. You have to go through a formal evaluation process. Then there's some negotiations. Like it's pretty expensive and it can take a while. But at the end of the day, I think we already have incredible retention. Like our retention is like in the 95+% rate, year over year. So we're fortunate in that, like, we keep our people, we take care of our people.
That's huge for retail, man. I don't give a shit, cannabis or otherwise, dude.
Totally.
Not many people stick anything out, 95% of nothing. So kudos to you and the brand that you've built, because that speaks to the whole thing, though, right? That doesn't just speak to one piece. It speaks to an entire breadth of business that I don't think a lot of people understand and appreciate about what cannabis is trying to become. And this is the adult version of what cannabis is trying to become, man. And I love it.
Totally. Yeah, no, retail hospitality historically is just like has high turnover.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of reasons why we're able to keep our people, but it's ultimately like passion for the plant, right? Passion for helping people. There's definitely a connectedness, and a relatability. Like, you know, it goes back, like people ask me who goes to your stores. I'm like, everybody. Like everybody loves this plant. Doesn't matter your age, your gender, your ethnicity. Like everybody loves this plant. It's such a beautiful, like unifying thing. And we've just created a really cool workplace. Like we listen to our people, we pay our people well. We're hopefully, you know, we're working towards this path of the ESOP and employee ownership. So yeah, I just want to leave a really positive legacy, right? Like I want to be able to, you know, look back and say I built a wonderful company that was responsible, that was ethical, that was took care of its customers and its team members, and we've been taking the steps to do that.
I tell you what, man, you are like you and Lauren Carpenter. I don't know if you know Lauren. She runs Embark on the West Coast there. Huge brand similar to yourself, doing the same things. Talks about her employees, talks about her people, talks about her brand, showcases all those things off, man. Just kudos to you and what you guys are doing out here. I think it is absolutely outstanding, man.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate it. It takes a village, and like I keep saying it, but we just have the best team, and I truly love what I do, and yeah, just incredibly grateful always. So thanks for having me on and giving me the opportunity to kind of share our journey.
Thank you for telling your story. Thank you for bringing it to life. And when we're on the topic of thank yous, we must thank Green Lane Communication for the sponsorship and trust. Mike and his team have gone out of their way this season to be an incredible partner to me and this show. And I truly, truly appreciate it. If you want to stand out in cannabis PR and be with the best of them, check out greenlanecommunication.com or just find Mikey on LinkedIn. He's dropping all kinds of just easy bombs on you each day about how to be better at your PR, how to be more prepared. Free advice, which I am not a fan of, by the way. I'm a capitalist hippie. I make money wherever I can. But Mikey's more worried about the story than that, so we love him for it. Brendan, thank you so much for your time. Folks, thank you for joining us. Next week on the show, it is the season finale. I'm going to be bringing you an OG grower from the farthest West Coast we can offer. Thank you guys so much. Have yourselves a wonderful week.